Hello everyone and welcome to the stream. Today we're going to be continuing basically with our Microsoft clone, where we are going to be cloning the Office page for today. And if you remember, the last time we did the Microsoft 365 page. We did this page last time, right? And then today what I want us to do is just this Office page, which is basically simple. It basically has the same styling as our home page, the Microsoft page. It has a few things that we need to do here, and create this grid, create the FAQ section, and then create this grid, which is basically we're going to copy paste it. I'm going to show you where it comes from. And then it has the footer, and it has the social section, which we already created, and the header. Now, in order to get started, there are a few things that you will need. First of all, you will need this repository called Microsoft-clone. And the reason why you need this repository is because it contains all our data arrays, and it contains all the images that we will need for the project from here on and moving forward. And the next thing that you will need, if you haven't been following along, that's okay, because you can go ahead and clone this repository, Microsoft-React-clone. You can clone this repository, which is the actual workspace where we're going to be creating our project right here. It has the public folder, it has things that we've already done that I'm going to go through in a moment. Now, one thing you should know is that actually let me just do it so that you can see it in action. In order to clone this repository, all you need to do is go to this green button right here and just copy this, or you can download the zip. Basically, you can download the zip, or you can use git clone to clone it, and I'm just going to use git clone. So I'm going to navigate to where I want my repository to live, and I'm just going to say cd into videos, like that, and I'm going to say git clone, then just paste this in, which I've copied from here. So once this finishes, let it just run. You'll notice that if I cd into the newly created folder, you can see it says cloning into Microsoft-React-clone. So inside, if I cd into that folder, so Microsoft-React-clone, and then just say open Visual Studio Code in this folder, you'll notice that you have the public folder right there with everything that we need, with our homepage images, our Microsoft images, and as well as the index HTML. And you'll notice we also have the source folder, the components folder, everything that basically I've created all the way until now. One thing you'll notice though is that you don't have the node modules at the top. Now, if I go into my project, this right here, you'll notice that I have the public, the source, and everything just like this, but I also have the node modules. So in order to get this, let me show you what happens without the node modules. If I were to try and start my development server and say NPM Start, what happens is that it will throw me an error. If it can just run a bit faster, and you can see it says, the error says React scripts is not recognized as an internal or external command. The reason for this NPM Start is that if you look in your package.json, it tries to run this React scripts, but technically, even though it's installed here, it is not available in your workspace. So in order to fix this, then you would need to install the node modules, and you can do that easily by saying npm install, like that. Now once you run this, it will take a while depending on your internet speed. If you run this, then it will begin to install node modules, and you'll notice that it will create the node modules folder for you. Let's just see if it will work. I just wanted to create the folder, and then I'm going to cancel it because I don't want this to run. There you go. You can see it creates the node modules folder for you. Now I'm just going to stop this because I don't want this to run, because I've already run it basically. And inside this node modules, if you scroll down, I hope it's available. If you scroll down, you'll find this, you see, React scripts. Now once you have this, then you can basically run npm start, which will run your development server. But always make sure that if you don't have the node modules installed, then always run npm install first. So I'm just going to close this, and then I'm going to close this, and then I'm going to show you this folder, the folder for Microsoft-clone. So if I just go into this folder, you can see that we have a few things. We have the deal speech data, which we are not currently dealing with. Currently we are going to be using this, the office page, which I hope contains everything. Right, we're going to be laying the office page, and then we're also going to need the office page underscore data, and you can see this contains the FAQ section, which I really don't know how I'm going to deal with this. I actually don't know how I'm going to deal with this, but I hope I get the gist as we move on. If I don't, then I'm just going to skip the FAQ sections for now. And then we also have this office grid, which is technically, let me show you where this grid is. The office grid is this right here. So it's very simple to create, as you can see. It's very simple. And then for this, if you go back into our Microsoft 365, you'll notice that this is also available here. So what I'm basically going to do is, because we already created this in our last video, I'm just going to copy this, and then I'm just going to paste it inside the office page. So that's all that I'm going to do, and then we'll have this section so that we don't have to repeat ourselves. And that is the beauty of React, because you can reuse components as many times as you want, anywhere that you want. And of course, we're also going to reuse this component, which is, I think I called the social, right? And then we're going to reuse the footer right there, and then the header at the top. So I think that basically covers everything that we'll need for our setup. So if I go into my workspace, which is this right here, let me put this to the side. If I go into my workspace, then there are a few things that we'll need from our data clone, right? So let me see what we need to do. We created a pages folder which has our Microsoft page, right? So inside my pages folder, I want to create another folder, new folder, and just call this office underscore page. Now this the office page will basically have the same structure as the Microsoft page, where we'll have for the grid, where's the office sorry, where's this, oops. For the office page, I'm going to need first of all, I'm going to need obviously my images for the office page, and then I'm also going to need my data. Now this, we are going to grab this, and then inside our data folder right here, I'm going to copy this. Let me copy these two. Copy this, and I think I'm also going to refactor this just a bit, because I think it's going to be bloated the more we continue. So once I copy this from here, I'm going to just paste it inside this data folder, and we'll have the FAQs and the office grid right there. And then inside my public folder in my workspace, inside my images, I have two folders for homepage and for Microsoft, which contain obviously the homepage images and the Microsoft images. So I want to create another folder inside my images, new folder, which I'm going to call office. Office, like that. So once I do that, then I want to go into my office page, and I want to grab all of these images and just say copy, and then paste them inside like that. Now one thing that I forgot to do, actually I didn't forget to do, but I hadn't downloaded the images for last time, is that we partly created this section, the section for the, let me show you, we partly created this section, but we didn't add the images because I forgot to commit the images to GitHub. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to say inside my images underscore Microsoft page, I'm going to grab this for images, and you'll see why in a moment. And then inside my workspace, inside my Microsoft, right, inside my Microsoft, I just want to paste them in, and you can see I already pasted them in. I already pasted them in, so you can just paste them in if you want, like that. And you can see it says copy, 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 but I don't want that, but I was just showing you what to do. So I'm going to delete them so that I have these right there. Okay, so we can close that. And remember that throughout this project we have been using Tailwind CSS, and we've been using the Tailwind CDN to be precise. And if you look inside your public folder in the index.html, you'll find that I have linked Tailwind in my header. So if you don't have Tailwind, you can head over to cdnjs.com, and you can just search for Tailwind CSS, which will give you this, and you can copy the link tag right there, and then just come and paste it in. It's basically the same thing. And then you will have access to the Tailwind classes in your project. Okay, so I think we are ready to get started, right? Let me close this, and then let me place this to the side like that. Okay, so let's see, how do we go about this? First of all, we'll need to create obviously the showcase, and then we're going to create this, and then finally this grid and the FAQs section. Okay, so we can get started, and I can say that, actually let me just spin up my dev server first of all, and I'm going to say NPM Start. If you don't know how to open your terminal in Visual Studio Code, it's the command is right here, toggle terminal, which is control plus the tilde, or the backticks really, for the template returns in JavaScript. So if you click them, it opens up your terminal for you, and you can say NPM Start, which will spin up our dev server. So I'm just going to let that run in a moment, and it should open up our dev server on localhost 3000. So inside my source folder and inside my pages folder, I'm going to create, actually I've already done that, so I have created my office page folder right there. And then inside my office page, I'm going to create a new component right here, so a new file, which I'm going to call showcase.js, which will be basically for this showcase, and yeah, as well as this, so for the image as well as this. And then I'm also going to create a new another component for this, another component for the grid, and the final one for the FAQs. Okay, so let's get started with our showcase first of all. So for our showcase, obviously we want the image first of all, and we need to grab the image and paste it inside our source folder so that it's available in the scope of our application. So in order to do that, then I'm going to say inside my images folder and inside my office folder right there, I need this image, which is the Hero 539, because it's on a smaller screen. So I'm going to, and the Hero 16, I think this is 1600 pixels, which is for bigger screens right there. So I'm going to just grab both of them, and I'm going to copy them from there. And then inside my source folder, I also have an images folder right there containing homepage and Microsoft, and I'm going to create a new folder and call this Office, where I'm going to now paste this in, and you'll see why in a moment. Okay, so inside my showcase.js, and remember this showcase.js is available for the Office page and the Microsoft page as well, remember. So we can have we can call a component the same name as long as they're not conflicting in the same folder, right? So let me close this, and then inside this showcase.js, I'm going to say RAFCE like that, and RAFCE comes from an extension called ES7. Where is it? It's called ES7 React Redux GraphQL React Native Snippets, which allows us to do a few shorthand properties while generating some React code for us. So the command that I've done is, where is it? This is RCE. The command that I have done is RAFCE right here, which creates a React arrow function component and then exports it as default right there. So it keeps you from writing the same thing over and over again, right? Okay, so I can now close this down like that, and then right inside here, I want to return a fragment, and then I want to return a section right there. Let me say this is a class name of let me say office dash showcase, and then I'm going to say div with a class of overlay. of overlay like that. And you can see this is basically what we have been cloning since the first part. So this is our home page, and you can see it's looking very nice. And then the last time we did the Microsoft 365 page, which is this, as you can see, we didn't have the image and we didn't have the images right here. We didn't have the video, sorry for this, and we didn't have the images, so we are going to fix that in a moment. And then now we want to work on our office page, and as you can see, it's technically not yet a link, but we're going to fix that in a moment. So if I go into, wait a minute, what I wanted this. So right here we can see that we have an image, and then we have our title, and then we have some text in the paragraph below this. So I want this to be inside a div, and then this to be inside a div as well, because on bigger screens you can see that they are placed side by side. So I'm going to make them into a grid, right? Not technically into a grid, but I'm going to explain how we're going to deal with it in a moment. Okay, so first of all, we'll need to get this image. So this image is available in our images folder right there, and inside the office, and it's called hero_539, as you can see right there. So we'll need to import this image, and I'm going to say import, or you can just say imp if you have the extension installed. I'm going to say import what do you say, showcase img from, it's coming from my what's it called, do I go up 2 stages, right? No, it's coming from, where's this folder? I need to go up out of the pages folder and then into office, so it's two steps up, and then images, and then it's called office, and then hero_539.jpg, like that. And then in order to use it, all you have to do is, let me create a div inside this. The reason why I have this div and then another div inside it is because I want this to be the parent div, and then I'm going to create another div inside here which will be housing this text. Okay, so I'm going to say return an image inside here, and the source will be the showcase img, like that. And then inside this div I'm going to say return an h1 saying this, so I'm just going to copy it and then just paste it in, and then below this return a paragraph, and then just grab this and paste this in like that. And then we will need to set up our routing so that we can actually see what is happening in our application. And I've just realized I messed this up a bit. That's okay, I'm going to fix it later. So in order to set up our routing, then we need to go back into our app.js, which is located right here outside of outside this folder and this folder and this folder. So inside my app.js, where I set up all my routing, and you can see the route that we created last time was going to /Microsoft 365, which is this right there. So we want to set up a new route. So below this I want to set up a new route, and the path for this will be going to /office, which is the current page that we're working on. And inside this office route, then I want to display this showcase that we have just created. And as you can see, this showcase is coming from Microsoft page, but technically the next the showcase that we want is coming from the office page. So I'm going to copy this down, and then grab sorry, not grab that, but change this into office_page, like that. And then in order to render it, I want it to render only when the path is for the /office. So I'm just going to say showcase, like that, so that it doesn't conflict with this right there. I hope it doesn't confuse you as well. So once I save this and then I try and navigate to my office page, okay, that will not work. So let me just rename this. Let me rename this into showcase office, like that. Change this to showcase office, and then change this, rename this to showcase office, like that, which means I have to update the imports, of course. So yes, if you get this prompt, just say yes, which will update the imports for you. and it will change this for you as well. But one thing that we need to change is this right here, as well as this, where I'm going to say change this to showcase office, not there, office, like that. So once I save this and then save this, let's see if our application still breaks. And there you have it. There we go. So our application works, but technically our routing doesn't work. As you can see, we can't click on this and then navigate to the office page. So in order to fix that, then we need to go into our components folder and into our header right there, because the header is where our links are actually located. As you can see, this link is going to the Microsoft 365 page, so we need to update this link to go to our office page. So right inside this list item, as you can see, inside it, I'm going to say create a link component, which comes from React Router DOM that we already installed. So this link will be linking to /office, which is the route that we created right here. Okay, and then for the text, I'm just going to say office, like that. So once I save that, you'll notice that now once I hover over it, on the bottom left the route appears and the cursor changes to a pointer, so that if I click it, then we have this, which is basically what we've just created. And notice that our header already appears. Excuse me. Notice that our header appears, our footer appears, and our social component appears. The reason for that is because if you check your routing right there, our footer, our social, and our header, they all appear outside of the routes. They're not limited to any routes, as you can see. For example, these components inside here are limited to the /route. These components inside here are limited to the /Microsoft-365 route, and this is limited to the office route. What this means is basically that any component inside these routes will only show on the screen once these routes are navigated to, right? But we want the footer, the social, and the header to appear on every page on our website, so that even if I were to go inside here and go into a page that doesn't exist, we will still get the header, the footer, as well as the social. But this isn't a very good example, because it's technically the office page. So let me remove this and let me go into a page that doesn't exist, and you can see we have the header, the social, and the footer right there. So this is very good in terms of setting up custom 404 error pages, which we might do, but don't hold me to that. So that if I go into my office page right there, you can see that we have this right there. So it's looking very nice, so we can begin to work on how it looks actually on screens. So let me place this to the side. Let's see, what we need to do now is just style it up a bit. So inside this h1, I'm going to say give this a class name of font bold. Remember, we're using Tailwind CSS, so you can just do this inside the actual elements, font bold, and then I'm going to say text center, and then I'm going to say text 4XL so that it's bigger. Let's say 3XL. Right, and then inside this div, actually let me remove this from here so that I only have to declare it once. Inside this div, I'm going to say give this a class name of padding on the x-axis of 5 and padding on the y-axis of 10, and then I'm just going to say text dash center, like that, which will bring everything to the center like that. Now inside this h1, I just want to add some margins so that it pushes away from the paragraph, and I'm going to say margin bottom of 3, like that. And then on bigger screens, I want this to be bigger, right? Obviously. So inside this h1, I can say MD, not MD really, but I want to start with large screens, so LG, like that, place a colon. And what this means is basically for about 1024 pixels and above, then the following styles should apply, where I want to say increase the text to 6XL, and this happens to be, let's say 5XL, like that. And then for large screens, once again, I'm going to say margin bottom of 5 so that it increases the margin between the head and the paragraph. Okay, and then another thing that I want to do is just increase the font size for this paragraph. So I'm going to go inside the paragraph and say class name equals, and for large screens I just want the text to increase to XL, like that, looking very nice. Now all we need to do is just deal with our showcase, right? So in order to deal with our showcase, I'm going to do something similar that we did in our home page. Let me close this down. If you go into your index.css, you'll notice that we added a bit of custom styling, such as this right here, as you can see. So what I'm going to do is something similar to this, right? And I'm going to say do I really want to do this? I'm going to say let me copy this for the hero, and then right below this I'm going to paste it in, and then I'm just going to change this class to our actual class right here, office-showcase. So I'm going to say office-showcase, and then change this route to office, and then change this to hero. I think that's what we called it. Let me just confirm in my images, office hero.jpg. So it's hero.jpg, not png, like that. And then this should remain. Now the reason why I have this position relative is because I want to target this div, not this div really, but this div that has the text, and then I'm going to position it as absolute within this div that is position relative, and you'll see why in a moment. And as you can see, this happens, which means we need to get rid of this right there. So we can get rid of that by saying let me give this a class name of showcase-image, like that, so that I can manipulate it a bit. And I'm going to say for where is it? I'm going to say right here, I'm going to say for my office showcase class, inside the office I have the showcase-image class, and I'm just going to say display none. Now the reason why this will work is because we are inside a media query of medium with 640 pixels, which means if I go greater than 640 pixels, then it disappears, and if I go less than 640 pixels, then it appears right there, and then our bigger images disappear, as you can see, looking very nice, right? Right. Okay, so what we need to do now is now target this div and then place it right there. So that's easy enough. We can go inside the office showcase. I'm going to say office showcase, like that, and then I want to target this div right here, and I'm going to say give this a class of office-text, like that, so that I can target it. And I'm going to say for this div with the class of office-text, I want it to position absolute. Oops, what am I writing? Position absolute, like that. And then I want to what am I doing? I want it at the top, 50% from the top, and then I want to transform it. So transform translate by minus 50%, which will place it perfectly to the center. And once I say that, this happens. Why did that happen? That is not what I expected to happen. Let's see. This should be translate Y. This should be translate Y. And there you go. So this should be translate Y. Don't make the same mistake. And then another thing that we need to do is now align this text to the left, right? So I can go inside this showcase right there, and then remember I placed text center here, so I'm going to say that on small screens. And the reason why I've chosen small screens is because SM here stands for a minimum width of 640 pixels, which is the width that we are working with right here. Okay, so these widths are chosen very strategically so that they all line up nicely. So I'm going to say for small widths, just text left here, which should reset it. As you can see, now it's all to the left. And then I'm going to say that for the office text right here, I'm going to say give this a width of 500 pixels, which will limit it like that. like that, and then we're just going to increase this with increase the width of this as the what am I saying? We're going to increase the width of this div. Remember, this is the div, as the size of the screen increases. Yeah, there you go. So I'm going to copy this. Actually, I'm just going to copy everything here so that I don't have to retype it. And then I'm going to go right here for 900 pixels, and I'm going to paste this in, and then I'm going to remove all this because we already declared it, and then I'm going to change this to 800 pixels, which will move it like that. And then we just want to add some padding on the left so that it moves inwards just like the others. And I'm just going to confirm what kind of padding I had. Right here I have 20. I placed a margin. Oh, I placed a margin for the header only. I'm pretty sure I placed a padding. It's all margin 20. Okay, I know what I did. The reason why I had margin 20 is because wait, I can't navigate back to my homepage. That's interesting. I'm surprised I forgot to do that. The reason why I have margin is because I wanted this to move away from the edge, which is basically almost what we have in the Microsoft page. So in order to stay true to that, let me go into my office, and then I'm just going to add a margin on this. So inside this, let me close this. I'm going to say for this div that has the text, I'm going to say that for extra large screens, I want the margin on the x-axis to be 20, which should move it inwards like that. And then let me see, we need to remove this padding so that it doesn't look like it's somehow slanted right there. So I'm going to say inside right here, I'm going to say for the extra large screens, I want the padding on the x to be 0, which will reset it, as you can see, looking very nice. Very nice. Okay, so once we do that, let me just deal with this because I realized that I can't navigate back to my home page, which shouldn't be the case. So inside my header, I'm going to be targeting this logo right here. So this logo, I'm going to cut it, and then I'm going to place a link component, capital L, and then just place this image inside there, and then set this to prop going to the / like that, which means that now even if I click the logo, it takes me back to the home page. There you go. Okay, so let's continue working on this page, and the next thing that we need to do is create this. Okay, so let me place this back into a smaller screen, and then we need to create this. Now if you look at our data arrays, let me close this, because I don't think we're going to be needing the we need the app.js for a few more things. If you look inside our data, you'll find that we have this office grid.js right there. Okay, and remember that this is targeting the / images, and then the images _ office page, which technically we don't have this, but if you check in your public folder, we have the office. So we need to change all of these images _ office page to office so that it targets the right path. So let me place this full screen, and on Visual Studio Code, you can select the text that you want, and then just press Ctrl D, which will select the next matching text, and then Ctrl D for the next one, and then just change this to office like that, right? We should now target the correct one, but there's something that I don't see. I don't see these images. Might be something I did wrong once again. Let me check if I cd into my desktop, and then I cd into Microsoft -clone, which is basically our setup folder. Let me check where do we have. I'm looking for these images, but I can't seem to see them. So I'm just looking for where I placed them. Let me see in my images support page. I'm looking for Office PNG. Right? Does it contain? No, but I am looking for Outlook. and I'm looking for Teams, right? And then Word isn't here, but Excel. This is Office, this is Microsoft, this is the home page, this is the deals page. So let's check the deals page. We have the Word. Where is it? I can't believe I did this again. It seems I forgot to grab these images. So what I'm going to do is just do it right now, and I'm going to say let's see, how do I want to do this really? Actually, you know what, instead of staying here and doing all that, let me just create this grid first of all. Let me create this grid of 3 items, which is basically what we were handling. So this right here, the ID of 1, 2, and 3, and I think I installed UUID. Oops, let me close this. I think I installed UUID. Let me just confirm, and it's not there, but that's okay. That's okay. So let's just deal with this grid first of all, which says for home, right, for business, and for enterprise, right there. Okay, so inside my, I'm going to close this, and then inside, let me close this and close this. So inside my office page, right, I'm going to create a new file and call this office grid.js, like that. And then I'm just going to say RAFCE once again, and I want to import something else at the top called UseState, like that. And the reason for UseState will be explained in a few moments, but I want to import this data, the office grid data that I have right here. So I'm going to say import data from, it's coming from a page, 2 pages up, and it's called data/office grid, like that. And let me just confirm that I gave this a default export, right? So it's correct. Okay, close this, close this. Now the reason why I imported the UseState is because I want to declare my state values, where I will be mapping over this data and then choosing what to display at the bottom. So I'm going to say const, let me just say cards and set cards. Now this is just a naming convention. You can call this whatever you want really, but just remember that this is the variable. This is the variable that is going to be inside the UseState by default, and then this is the function that controls how we change this variable. So this will be coming from UseState, and the default value will be the data that we've just imported right there. So if I were to hover over this, you'll notice that we have it has taken our default data and then placed it inside this right here, so that we have an ID of number, an image of string, title of string, P1 of string, P2 of string, and link 1 and link 2 of string, each of them. If I were to go into my my data array right here, you'll notice that we have an ID of number, which is basically what we have here, and then we have an image of string, technically, because it's inside a quotes, which makes it a string, and then the title of string, and everything else is a string, as we would expect. So inside my return, I want to return a fragment first of all, and then I want to return a section, right? And then inside this section, I'm going to be mapping over this data that we have right here and then displaying it a certain way. So I'm going to place curly brackets, and I'm going to say cards.map, and then for every card I want to destructure. I want to destructure the ID, basically everything that we have inside here, the ID image, title, P1, P2, link 1 and link 2, and all of this is coming from the card that we have right there. Okay, so below this now I want to set up another return where I'm going to return an article, and that this article will have the key of ID. And then inside here I want to return, how is this structured? It's structured as the image first, right? So it's the image first, then the title, then this, the P1 is the paragraph 1 for this, then the P2 is paragraph 2 for this, then link 1 is this, and link 2 is this. That's how I structured it. So I'm going to say return an image first of all. This will be coming from my image right there. For the alt, I'm just going to say show the title in case the image fails to load, and then I'm going to return an h4 saying the title, and then I'm going to return a paragraph saying p1 like that. Copy this down and change this to p2, and then I want to return a div, right? I'll explain why. And then inside this div I want to return an href like that. Not really an href because it will throw me an error in my console, so I'm going to return a button instead, and the button for this will say link 1. Then copy this down and change this to link 2, just like that. So let me save this and let's see what we have on screen. Oh, basically nothing because I haven't imported this in my app.js. So I need to go into my app.js right here, and then I'm going to copy this down and change this to office grid like that. And then in order to render it, I want it to render below this, so I'm going to say office grid like that. And there you go. And you can see we have the title right there, we have our paragraph 1, our paragraph 2, we have our button 1, which is basically a link, the way we're going to style it, and then we have our button 2, as you can see right there. So let's begin to style this. Let me see how this looks. Okay, so inside my office grid, let me place this like this. I'm going to go inside my section right here, give this a class name of px of 5, which will push it inwards just a bit, and then padding wide doesn't really matter now, but I'm going to go inside my h4, give this a class name of font bold like that. Give it a margin top of 5 so that it pushes away from the top. And then for this paragraph, for p1, I'm going to give this a class name of margin bottom of 5 so that it pushes away from this. That's too big, let's say 3. And then let's see, actually let me do this for both. Let me copy this down right there like that. And then for the buttons, these two buttons will basically have the same style, so I want to style both of them at once, and I can do that by selecting my first button right there, placing my cursor, and then holding down Alt on Windows, and then just clicking on the next button, and then give this a class name of, let's see, I want the text to be blue, so text blue 500, that's the class. If I save that, that happens. Change this to font bold. And then I want to say for the hover, when I hover over them, then I want an underline to appear. So if I do that, you can see the underline appears. But then for this, I want to add, let me go back here. I want to add a margin on the right of 5 so that they push away from each other, as you can see right there. And then you'll notice that they have an icon right there. So the icon that I'm going to use right after this, both of them, I'm going to say it's called FA chevron right, like that. Now remember that in our package JSON, you'll find that we already installed React icons, so we can just use them. If you're doing this on your own terms, like building your own project, then you would need to install React icons, and you can do that by saying npm install react icons and say --save, which will install React icons for you. If I were to run this, it will tell me that I already have it installed, and then it will just appear right there. So I'm just going to cancel that, and then we will need to import this in order to use it. So I'm going to go right above this, and I'm going to say import, and it's a named import. It's called FA chevron right, and it's coming from React icons from the Font Awesome library, so you need to include it. So once I save that, then it should appear, as you can see right there, but I don't want it to appear at the bottom. So inside this button, I'm just going to say class name of flex, which will place it to the side, and then items dash center like that. And then I want to go inside these buttons, inside the icons, sorry, and give this a class name of text extra small so that they reduce like that. Look at that, looking very nice, Okay, wait a minute, what did I do wrong? I need to go inside this div right here, give this a class name of flex. We should place them back to the side like that. And then while dealing with this div, because I want this to push away from this just a bit, I'm going to add a margin bottom of 5, which will push away the bottom div. Actually, let's say 10, and it should be bigger like that, looking very nice. Let me increase the font size for this so that it's not smaller than the paragraph. And I'm going to go inside this h4, give this a class of text-xl, like that, looking nice, looking nice. So now all we need to do is just scale it up, right? And I'm going to start scaling it up from a small screen. So in order to do that, I'm going to go back into my section, because all I want to do is just change this grid to display differently, right? So I'm going to go inside right here, and I'm going to say for small screens, which is 640 pixels and above, then I want to display as a grid first of all. And then for small screens, once again, I'm going to say grid columns, change this to 2, and let's see how this looks actually. Increase this, and you can see that we have now 2 columns as we would expect. And then another thing that I've just noticed is that on screens bigger than 640 pixels, this would go to the top, which means there won't be any margin separating the showcase and this grid, as you can see right there. So for 640 pixels, so I'm just going to go inside here, and I'm going to say for small screens, I want the padding on the top to be, let's say 20. Oh, that's too big. Let's say 10, like that. And then obviously I want a grid gap. I want a grid gap on this, and I'm going to say right here, I'm going to say for small screens, add a gap of 10, which will push away from each other like that. And then for now, I've just realized this. So inside this div right here, and I'm going to say at the end, where does this end? Oh, it ends right here. I'm going to say for small screens, let's see, this display flex, there should be also display initial. I think that's it. No, that's not how it works. What's default for I've forgotten the class for that. Let me just try and remember it. What's the class for it? Let me remove this. Let me see something. Okay. So adding this flex is what messes with this. So I can say flex dash row. We should put them in row, but it doesn't. Flex call is column, so flex row should be row, but that doesn't work. That's okay, I can deal with it a bit later. Let me just deal with this grid first of all, and I'm going to say that on large screens now, I want to display as 3 grids. So inside this section right here, and I'm going to say after this, I'm going to say for large screens, change the grid columns to be 3, which should push it like that. Look at that, looking very nice. And of course for extra large screens, then I want it to push inwards so that this padding is maintained. So right there, and I'm going to say for XL, I want the padding on the x-axis to be 20, so that it pushes inwards and it maintains some kind of symmetry, as you can see. So it's looking very nice. And then I'm going to say inside this div, let me change this, and I'm going to say for large screens, then I want this to display as flex, which should push it like that. Looking very nice. And the reason why I have it like that is so that it doesn't conflict and it doesn't put this. So I'm going to change this to extra large. So that, yeah, that's much better, as you can see. So after creating this grid, we need to create now the FAQ section, which I currently don't know how I'm going to work around, but I hope I find out in a moment. Before I do that, let me just deal with this first of all. Because it's only a matter of copy pasting. So if you go back to our workspace, you will find that we created inside my Microsoft page right here, in my pages folder, the Microsoft page, we created a learn-more.js, which is basically this that we're going to copy. We're not really going to copy, but we're just going to render this another time. One thing that I want to do is look at my data array and look at this learn-more.js. Okay, so you can notice that obviously this is an error because this is not the correct path that we're navigating to. So I need to change this to say Microsoft, like that. So I'm going to select it and I'm going to say Control D and change this to Microsoft, like that. Once I save that and then navigate back to my Microsoft 365 page, then this should appear, but it doesn't. Why doesn't it appear? Because this is home. Is this path correct? Images / Microsoft. This shouldn't be there, so I should remove this. Oops, that's not what I wanted. So let me just select this like that, select this and remove that, and this should work now. So let me reload this. Really? What? How did I create these other data arrays? It's images / Microsoft / home.png, which is this. Oh, I know the reason why it doesn't show. The reason why it doesn't show is because I didn't render my image. So let me go back into my, where is it? Right here, so learn-more.js, and I need to destructure it right there. So image, and then render this above this. So I'm going to say image like that. So once I reload it, then it should appear, and there you go. There you go. But something's wrong. This should be text align center, and I haven't really dealt with the grid. So let's fix that. Let's fix that. And how do we fix that? Let's just deal with this. Oops. Let's deal with this. Really? And I'm going to say for this is the section, right? Let me just change this flex to what's the class? Is it flex wrap? I think. Is it wrap? Really? Flex call them. We should place it like this. Okay, instead of doing flex, then let me just say grid, and the grid columns 1, and then give this a gap of 5. We should basically do the same thing, and then I'm going to say item center. We should now place it to the center, or not? Doesn't it? Let's say text center. Oops, not what I expected. Let's see. Let's see if in the article, if I can say, if I can say text center. It still does that. Why do you do that? Why do you do that? Item center, justify center. We should push this, but it doesn't. This is interesting. This is interesting. Which means what exactly? Let's go back to flex. Flex does that. Items center. Let's see text center. Let's say justify center as well. But the reason why this doesn't work is because I need to give this a class name of block so that it's a block element, but it still doesn't work. Does Tailwind not have a block class? I thought it does. I mean, it should. This is very interesting. This is very interesting. Okay, so instead of doing text center, let me just remove this. Oops. Let me remove this so that I just remain with justify center, and then I can go inside this image, give this a class name of margin bottom of 1, push away from the text a bit, let's say 2, and then I'm going to say right here, change this from flex to grid, and the grid columns, change this to 1. Let's see what happens with 2. I think 2 would be better. Then give this a grid gap of 10, because they are small enough images so that they can fit on small screens. They can fit as 2 grids without much straining, really. Right? Items center. Why does item center not work? Maybe I'm using it wrong. Interesting. But let me just deal with this. Oh, this is another component. I'm going to delete it in a moment. So let's just scale this up, and I'm going to say that for large screens, I want the grid columns to change to 4, which should do this right there. And then I can say, actually, let me change this to flex, which will do this, and then items dash center, and then justify dash center. And then I'm going to say for extra large, padding on the X to be 20 so that it maintains all of this. And I wanted this to justify between, actually not center, so that it does this. Okay. Not as good, but good enough. Let's change this to padding 56 so that it moves even more inwards. Which means that now once you've done with this component, then I can just go into my app.js, and because I want to reuse this component, I'm just going to copy it and then paste it below this. And once we do that, then go back to our office page, then you'll notice that we have this. Look at that, without much straining, and we already have this component created. And then what do I want to do next? Next, we just want to create this FAQ section, and then this section. Outlook Teams. Where's my array? Microsoft, no, homepage. This is MS Teams. Nope. Deals page I wanted. These are all, this is not what I wanted. Microsoft page, this is the data support page. Accessibility account, age. Office, we have Office, we have OneDrive, we have Outlook, we have Teams. Right? So what I can do instead is copy these 4 images. So for the Teams, the Outlook, OneDrive, and the Office, I'm going to copy these, and then I'm going to paste them inside my, inside my Office page. I'm going to paste these in like that, and the reason why I'm going to explain in a moment. But if you look at this, I just want to create this, right? Or create at least a semblance of it. So once I've pasted this inside. Actually, this is the wrong folder. I want these to move away from this, so cut these out, and then paste them inside the Office page, inside here, like that, so that I can go. Let me close the learn more, close this, and close this, so that I can go into my data arrays, and then I can create a new file and call this what do I call this? What do I call this really? let's just say grid. No, let me say office. No, office grid is already available. So let's say naming things is hard, man. Let's just say msgrid.js, ms_s.js, and then I can say const data equals that, create an object, and then export default data like that. Or I can say ID of this is 1, then the image path will be /images office, and it's called the first image that I want comes from this, and it's called office.png like that. And then for the title we just say office like that, and then just grab this, copy this down, change this to 2, change this to one drive like that, change this to one drive, and then just paste this down, change this to 3, change this to Outlook, there's a small o, Outlook, and then finally paste this final one down, change this to 4, change this to Teams, and change the title to Teams like that. And then we have to create this grid now. So inside my these folders are confusing me. Let me close this, let me close the data and the images, and now inside my pages folder and inside my office page I want to create a new file and call it msgrid.js, which is basically the same name that I had here, which is not good. So let me rename this to a small m like that, and then inside I'm just going to say RAFCE once again, and then I'm going to import UseState from this, and then I'm going to say import my data that we've just created from, it's coming 2 stages up from data, and it's called msgrid like that, and then set up my state values. I'm going a bit faster because I explained it in greater detail when we are creating our other grid, this right here. So I'm going to say items and set items. Remember, this is just a naming convention, you can call it whatever you like. So this should be UseState, and it's using my data that we have right there, and you can see just the ID of number, the image of string, and the title of string, which I've just created. So inside my return I'm going to return a section like that. Well, first of all a fragment, and then I'm going to say map over my items, so items.map, and then for every item I'm going to say set up an arrow function, and I'm going to say const and destructed the ID, the image, and the title. This is coming from item like that, and then set up another return, and we're going to be returning an article like that with the key of ID, and then we want to return first of all the image, and the image for this is coming from the image path. The title, I'm just going to say, for the alt I just want to say the title in case the image fails to load, and then I'm going to return an h for saying the title like that. Actually, let me make this an h3, and then once I save this I need to import it inside my app.js, and it's going to appear right here, so it's called msgrid like that, and I should be able to auto import it, right? So if I say enter, it should auto import it right there, as you can see. So let me save that, and let's see how our application looks like. And we have it right there, which is not what I wanted. I wanted to appear at the top after the showcase, so I'm going to grab this and just move it above this, and it should appear right there, and we have it right there. Okay, and then we can now begin to style it, and I'm going to say first of all return, actually you know what, I want to change this article to a div, and this key shouldn't be a quotes ID, it should be a key and then curly brackets ID, so that we can access this value, right? And then I'm going to say what is happening? Okay, there you go. So inside this section I want to give this a class name, class name of grid, and grid columns, set this to 1, and then the grid gap set it to 5. Actually I want to set this to 2 so that they go in column form. Let's say items center. Item center doesn't still work. Let's say MX auto, and then let's say width full, which should now place it to the center. But it still doesn't. What am I doing wrong really? I've done this hundreds of times. What am I doing wrong? Let me see if someone has said something in the chat. Nope. What am I doing wrong? There has to be something. Let me say padding on the X of 10. Grid columns. Let's go to nut cave and let's see this grid. Display grid columns 1 1 1 1. Grid rows. I want items center. Doesn't this have items center? Just for items start, just for items center. I want align items center. Place content center. Place items center. Place items center. Let's see. Place items center. Okay, I was giving the wrong class. It's place item center, not item center. Okay, we learn, we go. Let me remove this px and add padding on the y-axis of, actually not on the y but on the bottom of, let's say 10. We should move it away from this like that, and then let me just say text center so that this is perfectly below the image. So I'm going to say text center like that. Look at that, looking very nice. And actually that's it really. All we need to do is now just scale it up, and I'm going to say that for small screens, first of all, so that we add padding on this. For small screens I want padding on the y to be 10, push it down. And then for large screens I want the grid columns to change to 4, which should do this. Look at that, looking amazing, if I do say so myself, and I do. And then now we need to just create our FAQ section. So let's see how we'll deal with that. This is that will probably be a tough section to create because of how I created my data array basically. So I'm going to say inside my office page I want to create another component, so new file, and call this faqs.js like that. And our data is coming from faqs.js, as you can see right there, and it contains quite a few things. I still don't know how I'm going to display this data, but we'll just work through it. And inside my faqs.js, let me close this, and then I'm just going to say array_fce once again, and then import UseState at the top, UseState, and then import my data. So import data from, coming 2 steps up from data, and it's called FAQs. Then set up my state values. So I'm going to say const let's say questions, and set questions. This is coming from UseState, and the default value is my data array. Then return a fragment and return a div. First of all, a div, right? Actually I don't need to do this really, so I'm going to return instead of a div I'm going to return an h2 saying frequently asked questions. And then below this, I'm going to return a section where I'm now going to map over my data that we have. So place curly brackets, and I'm going to say questions dot map, and for every question that we have, I'm going to say destructure a few things, and we're going to destructure what's it called, that's not a good name. This is not a good name to give this, so let me change this. Let me change this to items. Set this to items so that I can say items here and say item here. The reason for that is because I have a key called question here, and I don't want it to conflict with what I have inside here. So I'm going to say ID question. First of all, I just want to get the ID, the question, and the answer one. ID question, answer 1, answer 2, answer 3. So ID question, answer 1, answer 2, and answer 3. This is coming from my items, sorry. And then set up my return, and inside my return I want to return a div with the key of ID. Now this key is very important. I know I haven't explained it, but it's very important to have it, otherwise you will always get an error in your console. And just to show you what I mean, I'm going to remove it here, and then I'm going to say I want to return first of all what's it called, a paragraph saying question, right? And then I want to return another paragraph saying answer. Actually no, that's not what I want to do. I want to use HTML5 details tag. I think it's called the details, so I'm going to say details. And then how does it go? Summary. Details saying the question, and then summary saying, summary, doesn't it this have summary saying the answer 1. Let me just return this. Let me see what we get, and we need to import it now, app.js of course. So just below learn more, I'm going to say FAQs, and it should auto import it for me. Let's check, and it's right there. So let's see. Items.map is not a function. Why items.map is not a function? Why does it say that? Instead of doing this, let me just return first of all a paragraph saying the question, like that, so that this can work and you can see something on the screen. Item, what? You know what? This should be capital I. Items, set this to the data, and then items.map. Now for every item, the structure, the ID, question, and so 1, 2, 3 coming from item. Did I do something wrong? Did I do something wrong? Let's see if this renders inside my office page. Frequently asked questions is right there. Okay, let's just do this again. I'm going to say items.map, and for every item, right? For every item, I want to destructure the ID and the question first of all. This is coming from item, not card, like that. And then I just want to return a div with the key of ID, and then inside here just place a paragraph and say question. Really? Or is it because I have arrays inside here? No, that can't be the case. That can't be the case. I don't think that's the case. What could be the case? What could be the case? Let's Google. Stack Overflow. And it says I need to React to Fragment JS. Into something that's not an array. Not TypeScript. Let me place chat to the side in case someone comes up with something. If you try to call map on the string, map is not a function error because map is an array method. Wait. Let me check something. I'm importing my data, right? My data is an array, right? Right. And of course, the reason for that is because I don't have an export default. Basic mistakes that cause problems. So once we load that, then we should get this. Look at that. And guys, I think I'm just going to stop the stream right there. I want to thank you guys for watching, and remember to subscribe to the channel before you leave, and you can as well follow me on the social media that is indicated on the bottom right. Okay, so in the next video we are going to start over from right here. I'm just going to leave this as it is, and I'm going to commit the changes to GitHub. Actually, you know what, let me do that with you guys so that you can see. And I'm just going to say right here, I'm going to say git add all, right? And I'm going to say git commit -m, and I'm going to say office page partial complete, like that. And then I'm going to say git push, and then once I push this to GitHub, then you'll be able to see the changes in the repository right here. So if I open this, and you'll see, right, we have committed 16 seconds ago. And in the next video, I'm just going to start over from right here so that we can continue to move on. And then probably we're also going to do the next page, which is, what's the next page? The next page is the Windows page. Do I have the data for that? Let me just check. The Windows page, do I don't think I did the Windows page. So in the next video, I think I'm going to do the either the surface, which I have right there, or I don't. But I'm going to do one of the other pages. Let me just place it like that to be simpler, and then we're going to move on and create the entire clone till the end. Okay, so thank you guys for watching, and be sure to check back. Remember to like and subscribe and share the content as we move on. So thank you guys for watching.